Hola, soy la profesora Clark, and here is the second half of Ser en Estar. We saw in the first part of this video, part 1, that Ser en Estar can be contrasted, but in this one, we're going to talk about how Ser en Estar can be used together and in turn produce changes in meaning. And so a quick review. In general, we know that using ser denotes more or less permanent state. Expressions for time, origin, location of events, specifically, and identifying descriptions. Okay? And estar denotes current and or resultant states. So it will describe something that happened because of something. The location of nouns, not events, and actions in progress with the progressive. And in general, estar describes the effect of the cause. One thing to always remember with estar is, for the most part, when you're describing things, you can ask why afterwards as a follow-up question. However, ser and estar are not mutually exclusive. That is, with certain adjectives, both ser and estar can be used along with it. The result is that the adjective takes on different connotations depending on the verb that precedes it. So here we have some examples. You'll see that the sentence structure is pretty much the same from the ser column to the estar column. You have a article, noun, and adjective. So from these two columns, the articles, nouns, and adjectives are the same. The only difference is in the verb. And when you have a difference in the verb, the connotation changes. So if I say el hombre es aburrido, because I'm using ser, that means that his inherent quality is that he's boring. He's not a lot of fun. He's very drab and droll, and he's not going to be the life of the party. However, el hombre está aburrido, that's an external cause. Estar lets us know that something caused him to be bored. So perhaps he's sitting in a very boring Spanish class, and he's not very entertained or engaged by it. Well, then you're going to use está aburrido to describe the man. And so both of them have the same structure, and they both use an article, a noun, and an adjective, but the verb changes the meaning of the adjective and the connotation of the entire sentence. The same thing happens with ella es lista and ella está lista. She is clever. This means that there's something inherently about her that is clever. She's always pretty witty. She gets things. She's a quick learner. Pero ella está lista means that she's done everything she needs to do, and now we can clearly see she's ready, she's prepared, and it's external. With el café no es bueno, as opposed to el café no está bueno, this is something with the ser that a coffee drinker would not say. A coffee drinker loves coffee. They're not going to say that coffee is unhealthy. Okay? A tea drinker might say that. However, a coffee drinker would say, el café no está bueno. They may be in a place where they don't normally get coffee. They taste it and they're unimpressed. And they think, okay, this coffee is either burned or it's old, or the water isn't good, or the beans are bitter. And this coffee no está bueno. But the connotation is that they've tasted better coffee, and they're qualifying this coffee as not good because there's other coffees that are better. Here's some more examples because I think repetition is helpful. I have eres bonita and estás bonita. Now, which one of these would you like your friend to tell you? My guess is for this one. You are pretty. Eres bonita. This is something inherent. But estás bonita could also be interpreted as a backhanded compliment. So you really don't want to hear that one, even though at first blush it seems really nice. The connotation is something caused you to be pretty today. What was it? The same thing happens with ella es fea and ella está fea. If I had to choose which one, that I would want someone to refer to me as is ella está fea, meaning I can do something to not be ugly. Ella es fea. It's an internal quality, meaning that no matter how pretty this person is on the outside, there's something inside of them that is not very pretty. Somos divertidos. This is what comedians would probably describe themselves as. We're funny people. We make people laugh. Estamos divertidos. Well, that would be the audience. They're caused to be happy. They're watching the comedian and they're laughing. And a few more examples. Eres muy guapa. Well, that's basically the same situation as eres muy bonita. You want this one to be told to you. This one, not so much. La manzana es verde. This means that it would be a Granny Smith apple. But this one, la manzana está verde, it could be any apple. It just hasn't reached a mature state. It's not ripe. You can't eat it. Somos vivos. This means we're smart, as in the smart alecky sense. Y estamos vivos. Maybe we had a challenge that was life-threatening and we made it through alive, and we're just expressing that we're alive. Different connotations. We also have some interesting things to consider when we're describing food. Ser plus an adjective describes an inherent or naturally occurring quality. So it sort of marries into what we just saw before, something that's internal or inherent. But estar describes quality not naturally occurring or resulting qualities, meaning things were added, things were modified, things that were not originally in the food to begin with. So if we look at ser and estar, on this one, I'm talking about the grapefruit. La toronja es agria, meaning an inherent quality of grapefruit is that it's sour. It shouldn't be a surprise if you bite into a grapefruit and you realize it's a little sour, and that is something that you would describe with S. However, I have la salsa está agria. The sauce tastes sour, which means that the sauce might have been fresh, but something happened to it and it went bad. So it is spoiled. And when you have something that's spoiled, it may turn sour, like sour milk or a sour dough, which might be a good thing, but you still have to do something to make that dough sour. El jalapeño es picante. Well, if you have a jalapeno, you can expect it to be spicy. That's an inherent quality. But las patatas están picantes. That means that hot pepper was probably added to it because potatoes don't naturally have a spiciness to them. And finally, the last component is throughout this whole description, we've been using some past participles. The one thing you need to remember is that a past participle is a form of the verb that can be used as an adjective. Present participle, which is the gerund, would be the equivalent of an ing, okay? But the past participle is the equivalent in English to the ed. So they're usually preceded by estar because they describe a current or resultant condition. And when this occurs, a past participle must agree with the noun that it's describing, okay? So every verb has a past participle form, just like every verb has a gerund form, and every verb will have at least a conjugated form from maybe 6 to 4 or 2 forms, okay? So here we have el proyector está roto and la cámara está rota también. Roto is an irregular past participle for the verb romper. So if you were to look up romper and find the past participle for it, you're going to find roto. This is the form that's used with verbs, and this is the form, these two, that can be modified into an adjective state and used with estar. So again, we see that because I have está roto here, roto is agreeing with el proyector, and rota is here because rota is agreeing with la cámara. The same thing happens with ella está cansada y ellas están cansadas también. Cansada is our adjective, but we get that adjective from the verb cansar or cansarse. So when we take this past participle cansado, we can make it into an adjective by giving it those qualities of an adjective. We put estar in front of it, and we get ella está cansada, because cansada is agreeing with ella. Y ellas están cansadas también, and cansadas is agreeing with ellas. Here are some other past participle adjectives and their infinitives. And you'll find that a lot of Spanish is derived from one part of speech to another. Okay, we have aburrirse, that goes to aburrido, y aburrida, and aburridos, and aburridas. Same thing happens with cansarse, cansado, cansada, casarse, which means to be married, casado, casada, enamorarse goes to enamorado, enamorada, preocuparse goes to preocupado, preocupada, enojarse goes to enojado, enojada, ocuparse de goes to ocupado, ocupada, enfermarse goes to enfermo y enferma, and entristecerse goes to triste, and that's an irregular. And that is pretty much some of the past participle adjectives and their infinitives. So let's look at a few pitfalls before we conclude. Not all adjectives can be used interchangeably with ser and estar, okay? But at this point in Spanish, it's not necessarily a right or wrong that we need to be concerned with. What you're going to need to start to be concerned with is what you mean to say, or rather, do you know what you're saying when you say that? Okay, and so when we're starting to contrast ser and estar, we're going to find that lots of times you need to know what you're saying. It may not be grammatically incorrect, but do you know what you're saying? So it's going to require just a little bit more sophisticated thought. There are also special circumstances when describing food, and you have to make sure all adjectives agree. And that, in a nutshell, is the second part of ser and estar. Gracias. Thanks for tuning in, and hasta luego. Hasta la próxima.